Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another episode of Monster Legends, where I'm going to try to help you guys decide which monsters are worth purchasing, because once again we have a make your own pack event in Monster Legends. And this time around we can construct our own pack of a Thunder, Earth, and Epic monster. So I'm going to start off by going through the Epic monsters and just showing you guys my thoughts on them, pretty much just showing their highlights, and then I'm going to move on to Earth and lastly Thunder. So starting things off with Seraphim, stats are nothing extraordinary, trait is immune to blind which can definitely come in handy. Looking at skills, it has an AoE daze which can make the enemy's power reduced by 25% as well as the accuracy reduced by 25%. A single blind skill which will make it harder for the enemy to hit you. A dark based single damage attack that deals 50 damage and drains 50% of the enemy's health. And also light based attack that deals 45 damage and gives this monster a big shield. And the description says 40% but the actual skill says a big shield which is 50%. Regardless, you still get a pretty big shield. So considering that Seraphim can drain life from the enemy target as well as give himself a big shield as well as apply effects like blind or daze to enemy targets, I think overall this is a pretty good epic. And next up is Punchie. Now Punchie does have some pretty amazing stats. That power, that is pretty high, like in the top 30. As for speed, this actually puts Punchie as the 11th fastest epic monster. Trait is immune to daze, which is nothing to gloat about. And what I like about Punchie are his AoE skills. He has an AoE poison and an AoE burning. So the great thing about this monster, you don't need to rely on strength, you don't need to give this monster strength runes, you can give him like 2 team speed and a life rune, and that way he'll just be able to apply DLTs on the enemy monsters. With poison, the enemies will lose 10% of their health for the following 4 turns, as well as their power is reduced by 20%, and with burning they're going to lose 15% of the health for the following 3 turns. Pretty good skills if you ask me. So after Punchie we have Daganth. Now Daganth, strangely enough, does have something to boast about. This power is really high for epic monsters. This is actually the 3rd highest power of all the epic monsters. As for his trait, he's immune to instant death, which isn't really needed that often. Now unfortunately, even though Daganth does boast a pretty high power, his skills are really more supportive than they are offensive. One strong offensive skill he does actually have is this 40 damage dark based AoE, but other than that skill they really are more offensive, so take a look at this skill. This skill gives precision to all of your allies, and your allies take no damage from dark or light attacks for 2 turns. So in any team wars involving dark monsters or light monsters, this can become a pretty powerful epic monster. He can also heal all of your allies by 25% as well as remove all negative effects from all of your allies. And he can give damage boost to a single ally as well as recover that ally's stamina by 50%. So even though he does boast a pretty high power and he does have that 40 damage AoE, I think using Daganth as a supporter in light dark wars, that's where he really shines. And the last epic monster on sale is Horus. Now Horus may not seem like much at first, but as far as his stats go, overall they are pretty darn high. I think this monster might have the best stats overall when you take into account every single different stat, because normally when you look at a monster, if they have a really high power, they normally have low speed or low life, or if they have a really high speed, they normally have low life. This monster, his stats are pretty well rounded overall. So for example, his power of 2850, this actually puts him in 21st place, or I guess I should say tied for 21st place. His life of 23,237 makes him tied for 6th place. And his speed of 2,990, this makes him tied for 5th place from all the epic monsters. So as you can see, all around he has some pretty good stats. And as for his trait, he's immune to nightmares, which isn't really the best trait to have. Now as far as skills go, I wouldn't necessarily say they're the best, but I guess they're decent enough to make him good. For example, he has a skill called Funny Mushrooms, which is a 1-turn cooldown stun skill, so that can come in handy in multiple situations. He has a skill called Too Much Energy that has no cooldown and drains 20% of stamina from the enemy target. And he has an AoE damage reduction skill. So if anything, if the enemy has a self buff, double damage, triple damage, using damage reduction you can get rid of that buff. So once again, the stats are nothing too spectacular. Stats wise though, he is pretty darn good. And just take a look at his special skill, the Eye of Horus. Removes all positive status effects from enemies and clears all negative effects from allies. Gives precision to all allies and may stun all targets. This is a pretty darn good ultimate if you ask me. So moving on to Earth monsters, we have Goran. Goran has 2 pretty unique things about him, the first of which is his speed, 3,432, this makes him the 4th fastest earth monster in the whole entire game, and his trait is mountain, meaning he's immune to both stun and freeze. Now a lot of earth monsters tend to have stun skills, so having this comes in handy, and if it's ever a team wars involving earth and water, well Goran could be your go-to monster because he's also going to be immune to freeze. And as far as skills go, this is probably one of the most tankiest monsters in the whole entire game. Take a look at this skill called Protected by Earth. It gives whatever ally you want a big shield and it removes all debuffs. So given that Goran can't be stunned or frozen, but let's say one of your allies was stunned or frozen, you'd be able to use Protected by Earth on that monster that was immobilized, and then that would rid that monster of that immobilizing effect, and then it'd even have a shield on top of that. And moving on to Bated Breath, he also has a 0 cooldown stun skill. 0 cooldown stun, what's not to love? Lacking View, a 0 cooldown blind skill. Considering a lot of earth monsters will be immune to stun, sometimes it's better just to blind them. And as for himself, he has a skill called Earth Energy. which is an AoE skill that deals 30 damage. Now the cool thing about this skill is that it actually heals Goran's life by 30% for each monster he hits. So if all 3 of the enemy monsters are alive, he's going to recover up to 90% of his life. Anyways, after Goran we have Olafur. And as for Olafur, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about him. You can always check out my monster analysis on him, but I don't think he's worth purchasing for this price. So after Olafur we have Atlas. Now I'm going to start off by saying Atlas is another monster I don't really think is worth purchasing, especially at this price. The good thing about this monster is that he is pretty powerful. 3,509, that is a high power. 33,779, that is a pretty good life. But his speed is where he suffers. 3,014, that is not really fast. And to make matters worse, his trait is attuned, which means he can easily be stunned by other earth monsters. But one thing I do really like about Atlas is that he has this skill called Meteor Shower. It's a 50 damage earth based AoE. This was one of the few monsters that have a 50 damage AoE. So if you happen to have Demise and you want a monster to easily beat all of your dungeons or player versus player, Atlas would be a pretty good choice. So at the end of the day, it really depends on you whether or not you need this monster. And the last earth monster available is Ouros. And it goes without saying that this is definitely your must-have earth monster. You see this monster a lot in Team Wars for defense. He is absolutely amazing. Ouros boasts the highest life of all legendary monsters, 40,111, that is an undisputed life. And oddly enough, even though he's an incredible tank, he also has a pretty high power of 3,498. Unfortunately for Ouros, his speed is where he suffers. Being a mountain, of course, it's no wonder that he suffers. 2,772, this is slower than some of the epic monsters I showed you. But like Goran, he has the amazing trait Mountain. He's immune to stun and freeze. So once again, this monster is really difficult to immobilize. Now what makes this monster as an incredible tank is that he has skills that can give him life regeneration, he has skills that can give him a small shield, and even though it's 30%, on a tank like Ouros that is still going to be a huge shield. He has a skill called Avaast which gives him double life and protection. If double life isn't bad enough, all the attacks are going to be targeted at Ouros, and he can even return 100% of all incoming damage. But if that's not enough, check out his ultimate Global Stomp. Crushes all enemies, there is a chance they will be instantly defeated. Instant kill chance to bosses 20% to normal 50%. So in a Team Wars, if Ouros happens to get his ultimate against you against the enemy, there's a 50% chance he's automatically going to wipe them out. Now you may be thinking ultimates don't really come up too often in a battle, but considering Ouros is so difficult to actually defeat, I guarantee you that Global Stomp will definitely come into play a lot. So once again, it goes without saying you should definitely purchase Ouros. And moving on to Thunder monsters, we start things off with Voltaik. And like with Ouros, it should come to no surprise that you should definitely purchase Voltaik. If you don't know by now, Voltaik is one of the most overpowered monsters in the whole entire game. His power doesn't matter, his life doesn't matter either. Interestingly enough, for an attacker, he does have a pretty high speed of 3,465. This is what a lot of the top deniers have. And his trait is hardened, meaning 20% of the time you're going to fail to immobilize him. And if you do fail to immobilize this monster, he's gonna wreck you. And that's specifically because this monster has 4 attacks that will give him an extra turn. Meaning that on defense, it doesn't matter what the AI does. No matter what, this monster is gonna keep getting an extra turn unless he gets its ultimate attack. In which case then the AI is gonna fail you. So regardless if Voltaik is meant for offense or defense, he is a really powerful monster one you should definitely have on your team. Next up is Mercurius. Now probably the most amazing thing to Mercurius is his speed of 3,663. This makes him the fastest legendary monster in the whole entire game. And to make things even better, he is immune to stun. Now a lot of thunder monsters, the thunder deniers, they do have stun skills, and if they don't have stun skills, a lot of them also have blind skills, where Mercurius can actually handle both blind and stun. And the way Mercurius actually handles being blinded is with lightning strikes twice. This skill gives him an extra turn as well as increased accuracy. He has another skill called You Can't Keep Up, which also gives him an extra turn, and he also has a 45 damage AoE that blinds all of the enemy monsters. So not only is he inflicting a lot of damage, he's also blinding them, so the chance of them hitting you is going to be reduced significantly. And Mercurius also comes with a special base 50 damage skill that gives him double damage. So I personally really like Mercurius, and I would recommend you guys purchasing him. However, if it comes to purchasing Voltaik and Mercurius, I would have to say go for Voltaik. But anyways, after Mercurius we have Monster D.Vice. Now Monster D.Vice is a pretty interesting monster. He boasts a speed of 3,465, which as I mentioned with Voltaik, that is one of the fastest speeds for deny monsters. His trait is immune to daze, which isn't that good, but his skills are where it shines. Updated software, immunity to burning, stun, daze, and freeze to all of your allies. So in a Team Wars involving thunder and water, this could potentially come in handy. He comes with a skill called Dazzling Content. It gives all of the enemy monsters damage reduction and daze, so the combination of damage reduction and daze that'll reduce the enemy's damage output by 50%, and they also have negative 25% reduced accuracy. So if you were to choose to run this skill, that could definitely weaken all of the enemy monsters. And Monster D.Vice also comes with a skill that gets rebooted, and to the best of my knowledge, he might be the only Thunder monster to actually do that. And Monster D.Vice also has very low battery, which removes 75% of stamina from the target, so this is a great anti-Voltaik skill. Especially because with Monster D.Vice you would run 3 speedruns, and no enemy would run a Voltaik with 3 speedruns, so you're always going to be faster than an enemy Voltaik, meaning you're going to be able to start off the game by reducing Voltaik's stamina and he's not going to be able to defeat you. Instead, that enemy Voltaik is going to have to recharge, and then you can probably take him out with your attacker. Or if you can't take him out with your attacker, I would highly recommend running low battery, which removes 50% of stamina from the target, so then you'd be able to take away all the stamina that Voltaik just recharged. And the last Thunder monster available for purchase is Vanoss. And I'm really sorry to all of you Vanoss fans, but unfortunately I have to say this monster is not worth purchasing. You should only purchase this monster if you're a fan of the YouTuber and you really want him in your collection, but other than that, for offensive purposes or for defensive purposes, I would have to say he's not worth it. So the number 1 Thunder monster you should purchase is definitely Voltaik. After Voltaik, I would probably have to say Monster D.Vice, then Mercurius, and lastly Vanoss, and that's just in terms of actual usability. Personally, I would say Mercurius after Voltaik just because I really like Mercurius, but regardless, number 1, definitely purchase Voltaik. For Earth monsters, pretty straightforward, you should definitely purchase Ouros, but if you guys were to ask me who would I purchase after Ouros, I guess I would have to say Goran, and after Goran it would be Atlas, and lastly Olafur. But regardless, number 1 Earth monster worth purchasing is Ouros. And as far as epic monsters, that's a little more difficult. There's none of them that really shine. Like I said, Ouros has amazing stats, but his skills aren't the best, however they're not necessarily terrible. Seraphim appears to have high survivability, given the fact that he can drain life and provide a shield for himself. Punchie has 2 great DOT skills, and that can really come in handy in team wars. And then we have Daganth, who can provide shields for your light and dark monsters, as well as can provide support in many other ways. So if I had to pick an epic monster, I think it would have to be Seraphim, given the fact that he has the best survivability among the other epic monsters. I also have to say though, do not purchase any of these epics for 149 gems. That is an extremely high purchase price for an epic monster, especially when you consider the fact that for 100 more gems, you can get an amazing monster like Voltaik or Ouros. So if it comes down to purchasing an epic, please do not purchase one, just save your gems for the next time around, and just don't spend your gems on an epic monster. However, if you were planning to buy both Voltaik and Ouros, I would recommend that you get the pack for 519 gems, because in that case, you're only spending a few more gems for this great epic monster. After Seraphim, I think I would have to go with Daganth, just because he will definitely come in handy in Light and Dark Wars. And after Daganth, it would have to be Horus for his amazing stats. And lastly, it would be Punchie. I felt the need to mention all that just in case people asked what my hierarchy for epic monsters was, but nonetheless, I think this is the pack you should definitely purchase. So anyways, that's going to be all for this video. I really hoped it was helpful. Hopefully you can use this video as a reference on whether to spend your gems or save your gems. Well, I hope everyone can get the monsters they want. Good luck on Monster Legends. Have a great amazing day or a great amazing night, and remember to dream big and pursue your passions.